gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the Diving Auto Center YouTube channel where we work on it like we own it. And I'm sure you are wondering, why is this guy in some sort of coffin or a coffee shop? That's a bit much. But we are in a spray booth, and the reason why we are in our spray booth is that we are going to be talking about paint. What types of paint there are, how do you apply paint, basically everything to do with paint that I am able to disclose to you guys. So yeah, let's go. So you just bought your car to the Diving Auto Center, and you're wondering what's the process. You have come, you want to spray paint, and you're wondering how's the process. So first off, the check-in where we'll have someone come in, have a look at the car for you, get all the details of the make, the model, and everything. So step 2 is we will definitely need to look at we look at the condition of the vehicle, right? So come right here. So things like this is what we look at. How is the condition of the vehicle? Is the car bubbling? Is the paint looking a little bit uneven? Because there are very many signs that a vehicle has paint reaction. So this is the first thing that we'll look at, is the condition of the vehicle. And this car seems to be in pretty good condition because it's maintained by Diving Auto, of course. Yeah, so step 2 is the car goes into the workshop. First stage is every paint work starts with the panel beating. And so that's where you apply the filler, sand. So that is what our very good friend Jacob here is doing. Yeah. So that is step 1. Move on to step 2. What is step 2? Step 2 is primering of the vehicle. Once the panel beating is done, you have to cover the filler that has been put all the repairs have to be done. Because if you put paint on top of that, it's going to react. So what is primer, you may ask? This yellow stuff right here, this is primer. So you put 2 coats of primer on the vehicle, you let it dry for takes around 6 hours. So we tend to leave it overnight. So it dries, then once you're done with the dry, you do 2 things. Dry sanding. Dry sanding is to get it nice and level. Show you the video, but just imagine, there's no difference. Look, it's so smooth, wow. So that's dry sanding. Then wet sanding. Wet sanding is when you use a sandpaper on with water to make it nice and smooth and even. And yeah, and now that is the paint preparation stage, and now we are ready to get into the spray booth for paint work. Part of the spray booth. Spray booth. We can't do this book now because someone is painting the vehicle, so chemicals and everything. But as you can see, this is the paint process. And I'm sure there's one thing that you guys are wondering: why did Diving quote me 100,000 for paint? Why did Diving quote me 50,000, 120,000 for paint? What the hell, Kevin? Now let me tell you what the hell is. Now, when we are quoting for paint, I think we've mentioned this in a previous video. We look at the main thing is normally the quality of paint. I mean, the main thing is normally the type of paint, right? So what kind of paints are there? Now I shall break it down with examples of paints. So normally when you are looking at paint, you start with the tier 1 of paint. The tier 1 of paint is basically like very basic paint. So this is sort paint. Don't mind the owners put that. This is Cerakote paint. Cerakote paint is normally very basic paint. It's very basic. It's just straight white. Some people call it acrylic paint. Cerakote paint. It is really all the same thing. 2K paint. It is really all the same thing. Now Cerakote paint is normally put. It's mostly on commercial vehicles, lorries, vans, and a few cars here and there. But it's mostly put on like pro boxes, and that's no offense to the pro box guys, but normally on commercial cars mainly. So that's like really basic paint that doesn't cost so much. So yeah, this is also, I'm sure you guys are wondering. And acrylic paints, is there any acrylic paint that goes into personal cars? Yes, there is. Now, mostly for personal cars, now this goes a step higher in terms of the tier one. So the base tier is standard acrylic, and then is subacrylic paint. So when you go a notch higher, you have better acrylic. Better acrylic, it's still under acrylic, but it's just slightly better. So you can come close. So you see this possibility right here. This possibility right here. This is better acrylic paint. It looks kind of metallic, but not really. And yeah, so this is like a higher level of acrylic, but it's still acrylic and not the best. This is the paint that normally goes into most personal cars. Now we have the second type of paint, which is normally metallic paints, right? So metallic paint has very many variations and very many tiers within the metallic paint. So we'll start with the base metallic paint, which is called base coat paint, right? So base coat paint is a paint that you normally find on very many vehicles. Doesn't have crystals inside, but it's not acrylic. It's metallic. This is a good example of metallic. This is silver on this particular unit. Right. Yeah, so this is metallic paint. It's basically it's a slightly higher level. It's definitely higher than acrylic, so definitely much more expensive. But this is the base of the metallic paints, right? So yeah, so normally under metallic paints you have various colors. This is not the tier of paint that has various colors. Subacryl, you're limited as to how many colors you can have. But for metallics now you have all sorts of colors, right? So now this is not the tier one, this is now the base coat. Like this Mercedes Benz right here, this is also metallic paint. You can get closer, you can see some metallic grains in it. That's what makes it metallic paints, right? Good. Yeah, and we now move on now to when you are done with the tier one of metallic paints, then you go to the tier two within metallic paints. Now this is the higher level of metallic paints. This is now called xerelic paints. Now under xerelic paints, there are two different types of paints, right? There's the xerelic. Now xerelic normally is different colors: red, blue, indigo, lilac, all that. And how you can tell a paint is xerelic is when you see the tiny crystals inside the paint. Have you ever seen a car inside and you stare at the paint and you find what some guys would call shino, right? Now that is xerelic paint. Now when you go to the white side of the xerelic paint, now that's what you call pearl whites, right? So if you have a pearl white car basically it's very nice. It's white. It has a crystal, so it kind of looks yellowish from afar, right? So that is what you call pearl white. So the pearls and the xerelic paints mainly are slightly higher, not even slightly, much higher. They are much higher in price, and so that's how you are given a quote of 150,000, 150,000 for paint work. That is the reason why, because your car is xerelic. Funny enough, most of the cars that have xerelic paints, you would assume are the Benzos and the German cars, but no, actually you will be shocked. The Mazda Demios, the Notes, those are the ones, especially the new ones. Those are the ones really coming with the very expensive xerelic paints, right? And so now you go now to the final tier within metallic paint. So we have done base coat, we have done xerelic. Now on top of xerelic, there's a very expensive crisp paint called PH paint. Now PH paint, it still has the same metallics, but it's a lot more intense. It's a lot more intense crystals. Within it, you're able to see them from afar. It's a beautiful paint. It looks beautiful, but the price is really high. So if you drive a Mazda CX-5, if you drive a Mazda Demio, basically the Mazdas are the ones that are actually quite notorious for having this very expensive paint, and the Peugeots as well. So if you have PH paint, now that's now like we can say kind of the top tier of paints when we are looking at locally most produced cars for the local market. The highest tier you will get is a PH paint.
So now we're going to be having a bit of questions, and the first question most people would like to know is, when I bring my car to the garage, how do you identify the color code?
So each and every vehicle that is manufactured normally has a specific paint code that comes from the manufacturer. So most of the times the paint code is normally in the chassis plate. So it depends on the car you drive. Like most Toyotas and Nissans. Mainly the Japanese cars. You are looking at the front passenger side door, the pillar there. You will find a black what do you call it?
Chassis plate.
You will find a black piece of paper or plate that is there that has a chassis plate. I mean, that has a chassis number. That's mostly where the paint code normally is. On German cars, it's normally at the very front, at the very front on the bonnet, and also some Japanese cars. So the main place to find the paint code is normally on the chassis plate on all cars.
Okay, and then another thing I'd like to know is if my car has maybe just a bit of the panels and have the paint ruined, is it possible for me to have those specific panels painted? And then if so, if these panels are painted, could you tell the difference? Like, is that something that you do to avoid the mismatch?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, for sure. There are ways that we avoid mismatches. Number one is we blend the adjacent panels. That means if say we are painting your front door, we shall blend the rear door and the rear wing with fresh clear on top of that. So that is going to be. So the purpose of that is to make sure that those panels blend and we buff the car. I mean, but of course there are some extremes. Don't bring us a really old car where the paint has really jacquard and expect the paint to match. That is tricky. But most of the paints, if the paint is relatively new, relatively untouched, we are able to match most of the paint.
And then one more thing. So here in Kenya, is it possible to change the color of your car? And if it is possible, what is the procedure that one may follow?
Actually, yeah. You are able to change the color of your vehicle, but you need to inform NTSA. You need to inform NTSA, I think, by email. You need to let them know that you have changed the color of the vehicle so that they can update your logbook. Now, how we are able to change the color of a particular vehicle, because we have actually done that for quite a number of clients, is we have to remove every single thing from the vehicle, from the mats, to the chairs, to the seats, to the dashboard, everything. So we remove everything and we'll paint every single inch, nook and cranny of the vehicle. So if the car is red and we're turning it to blue, everywhere will be blue. We'll even move the roof lining and paint everywhere blue. That way you are sure that it's not going to be easy to tell that this car was easily painted differently. That's okay, yeah.
Okay. And then one more thing, what is the full display time here at Dive-In? If you're doing a whole car, what is the time that a person should expect?
Full display, depending on the nature of the repairs. If it is just a straightforward paint job, completely, you're looking at maybe 1 to 2 weeks, depending on the intensity of the vehicle. Because number one, and I'll tell you guys why we take 1 to 2 weeks, which may seem long for some of you guys. Paint is mainly chemicals. It's just chemicals on chemicals, and so we try and make sure that the paint comes out as perfect as possible. And a lot goes into getting a good paint job, i.e. the pressure that you are using with the gun, the pressure coming from the compressor, the paint preparation. So because it's chemicals and we are working with chemicals, as you had me saying earlier, primer takes one full day to cure. We like taking our time and make sure that the paint comes out perfectly and with no issues. So yeah, so maybe 1 to 2 weeks.
And when we began this video, we had gone to the spray booth.
Yeah.
So we have seen people in other places, they don't really use spray booth. So why does Dive-In advocate for the use of spray booth? And does it have any effect when it comes to the final finished product?
It's not really about advocating for spray booth. It's just we have invested heavily in our paint processes, because that's actually what we're best known for paint work. So we've invested heavily in our spray guns, in the setup that we have. So the advantage of having a spray booth is, number one, it's dust proof and it's dust proof. So it's basically airtight, right? It's good for the environment, number one, because all the dirty paint comes out and is filtered out through filters. The smooth is full of filters all over. So the paint is able to come out and be purified, come out just as ash. So that is good for the environment, number one. Number two, it makes sure that the paint that the paint doesn't get contaminated by dust, water, or things like that. And number three, you are able to paint a car faster, and you're able to dry a car evenly with the heaters that we have. So it's able to dry the car evenly and nicely, and yeah. So it's really just an investment that we've put into our painter to make sure that we get the best quality job for our clients. So that has been it for today's video about painter. I hope that you have answered. If you have any questions, put them down in the comments down below. Any questions that we shall be able to respond. If you want a quotation done, if you'd like us to paint your car for you, if you have been convinced by this video, feel free to stop by. We are located along King Ada Road within Lavington. Yeah, follow, check us out on YouTube, which is here. Check us out on TikTok and Instagram at Davin Auto Center.